partners, and it was something that was totally unique around the world. That a venue and a national governing body were at the same place. But it's momentum, it's clustering, it's building one thing on top of another. When the USCF came there, well, then the United States Dressage Federation came, the United States Hunter Jumper Federation came, the United States Pony Clubs built the building. Then everybody had to be there. And so that's how success is built. Now, when I became executive director of the Kentucky Horse Park in 1997, and we brought up a team in, Craig, as you can attest to. You have to do an analysis of where you're at. And on the tourism public side of our business, not the event side, which was going really well, it was kind of like, if you've been to the Kentucky Horse Park, you've been there. The history of the horse hadn't changed. The horses are still horses, And we were getting feedback is, well, we enjoyed it, but it'll probably be a while before we come back because it'll be there, and it's pretty much, it was enjoyable. But so we knew we had to kind of make things a bit more dynamic. So we decided that every year we were going to have some sort of different theme. And so we decided in the late 1990s that China has a really rich history with horses that not a lot of people know about. Or at least it's not in the forefront of people's consciousness, even people who love horses. And so, terribly long and great story that I'm not going to do because, again, of this third horse thing coming up. But I will say, we had an agent who was helping us on the Chinese mainland, and what we intended to do was we wanted to borrow one of the horses in Emperor Shen Shi Huang's tomb. The terracotta horses of the greatest archaeological finds. And if we thought we could bring that to our park for the summer, that would be great. So, long story short, we end up in Beijing to negotiate getting this terracotta horse from the Emperor's tomb to come to Lexington. Well, we have dinner with the Minister of Culture of the People's Republic of China. And so, there's a language barrier, but we're working through it. We're talking, and we're kind of not sure if we're making any success or not. Turns out this guy did his doctoral thesis on the role of the horse in Chinese history. And he had been waiting his entire life to do an exhibition on horses in China. What started out to be a 1-week trip, we were there for 3 weeks. And he opened, this is the great thing about a dictatorship, by the way. He opened every museum in China to us and said, if it's related to a horse, you can have it. We had 368 precious artifacts from the People's Republic of China. Not the Smithsonian, not the Metropolitan, not any museum in the world had such a large and significant amount of national treasure come from China to our continent. And so, state government hearing about this, they were like, what? You've done what? And so, this is the largest international cultural event in the history of Kentucky, ever. So, next thing we know, we've got like $750,000 of upgrades to our museum on HVAC and security and cameras and all that. It just came our way. This was great. And one of the most interesting things, this was the year 2000, so for 4 months in the year 2000, we had really this wonderful exhibit. It had a couple 100,000 people go through it paying. It was a big success. But more importantly, what it did for us was link this Kentucky Horse Park and horses with the arts community, who were jazzed about this in an incredible way. I mean, these pieces from every dynasty in China were beautiful. It got us, it connected us with the history community, who really, they knew horses, as we said, even though horses built our civilization, they were not in the forefront of celebrating that. Because of the horse, they had one of the most significant things to study that could ever come to Kentucky. It connected us with the academic community in a wholly new way. So that this horse park and this horse culture and our horse lifestyle all of a sudden began to lift the boats of everybody. And that this wasn't something mutually exclusive to their world, but it was complementary to their world. And finally, before the exhibit opened, we had the ambassador from the People's Republic of China come down to open the exhibit. And in conjunction with that, they had a 2-day economic summit of business entities from China meeting businesses from Kentucky and putting them together. And it was very sophisticated. It was a big deal. All the translators, everything. And well-funded. A partnership with the United States State Department and the People's Republic of China, but in conjunction with our exhibit. And the ambassador announces that the People's Republic of China was lifting its restriction on agricultural products, and mainly from Kentucky, including tobacco, which was really suffering in Kentucky. And to have a new market, despite what you may or may not think about tobacco, but for our farmers to have a new market that was opened up because the horse park had an exhibition, which, by the way, we wouldn't have had if it wasn't for the horse. And that's one message I want to leave with you. Let's don't forget what the horse continually does for us. Without the horse, no People's Republic of China, no lifting the restrictions, no dialogue, no experiencing this beautiful art and this beautiful experience, and putting Kentucky culturally on a map in a way it hadn't been before. So I wanted to share that story. 3 years later, we did the same thing with Great Britain. Same type of exhibit called All the Queen's Horses, and it was with the royal family and a number of major museums, including the British Museum. And we had, and again, it was this time about 400 artifacts. Henry VIII's riding armor, Queen Elizabeth I, not the current one, but the first, her saddle. I mean, and this stuff went on and on. And Princess Anne came over to open that exhibit. And she was a hoot. So we took her through the exhibit and had all the photographers there and all that. And she would read this. She says, well, I had no idea. She goes, and to think I had to come to the colonies to find this out. So she was great. Well, this stuff of putting together these international exhibits increased our confidence that we could do, that our little horse park could do things big on a national level. And that's when we really became very engaged with the FEI and traveled the world a whole lot to essentially campaign for a strange idea. And that is a World Equestrian Games, which some of you know and some of you may not know. World Equestrian Games is every 4 years. It is as big as the Olympics for horse people. It's actually 8 disciplines. And it's been held in The Hague, it's been held in Stockholm, it's been held in Rome, and in Germany. But it's never been held anywhere outside of Europe, because that's kind of, for equestrian sport, as you know, that's kind of the motherland. And we had this idea that it was time, if they're really the World Equestrian Games, that they come to a different hemisphere. And that we could do this at the Kentucky Horse Park. So we began the whole effort. The plan was the 2006 World Equestrian Games. Now, we had one problem, and that's pretty serious. When Atlanta hosted the 1996 Olympics, the state veterinarian of Georgia would not allow horses that had tested positive for pyroplasmosis into the country, which is normally our rule. And the problem is, if you're vaccinated for pyroplasmosis, you carry that titer, and it looks like you may have had it. And the problem was, some of the best horses in Europe are not allowed to come to the Olympics. And it enraged a lot of Europeans who swore a blood oath that there would never again be an international equestrian competition in the United States, so help us God, there will not be. And the problem, too, was that the leader of that effort to keep those horses out was the Kentucky thoroughbred industry.